What are alphabet shares and how they can benefit you and your company and how to implement them? So alphabet shares are a widely used tax planning technique that offer massive potential. So we're going to look at this scenario. ABC Construction Limited is solely owned 100% by Sarah. Now, some of the problems that Sarah faces is that the fact she draws 100k from the company, she's in a high rate of earnings, she has a high value estate. Let's say, for example, this is valued at £2 million, and she supports her family and is the main income provider. However, her family do help within the business for ad hoc and general business running as well. So at the moment, all of the income going through Sarah. What we can do is we can look at setting up alphabet shares, which are ABC shares. Now, we can allocate these to family members. Again, they must reflect real commercial rationale, but we're looking at setting up these shares. And the main purpose of these shares really is to basically reward the family members for their work and their commitment within the business. But that also has tax planning advantages. For example, they can get paid at a lower tax rate than Sarah's currently withdrawing at. We can allocate some of the estate or some of the value to maybe kids earlier on. So then that means she's got a lower estate and IHT bill that would be passed down, and the fact that she supports the family, so it's only right that they potentially naturally get rewarded for that. So the shares that we would set up would look like they would have no voting control to stop Sarah losing 100% control of a company. That could be an option and a main way that it's set up. The shares have access to dividends and potentially access to capital. That's dependent upon whether you want them to basically have access to the capital and the value of the company at winding up, or some cases that might not be feasible. That's a 50-50 split on that. When setting up alphabet shares, these are the warnings. Tax implications of transfer of value. If the shares are deemed to have value at setup, then transferring them to family members can have tax implications. That's something to watch out for. There are ways around it. There are ways it can be structured so that isn't the case. Whether income shifting comes into play, HMRC may see if there's a drop in income for Sarah, is it just purely a facade, and for income shifting onto a lower tax band, that's one thing you have to be careful of. And dilution, Sarah being diluted on a share class could be another possible concern, which can be mitigated by setting up no voting control and other rights to the alphabet share classes. Massive potential here, but what must you do to make sure it's done in compliance with HMRC and regulations? We would first advise a written tax plan that's going to take into consideration the personal aspects of Sarah, her plan, and then any tax considerations to make sure it's fully compliant and she understands what's happening and how to execute that. Above that, we'd also support that with a legal pack. So working with solicitors, you're looking at amending the Articles of Association that governs the company, and that will set the share class rights and any clawback clauses that you might want to have if you've given shares to a husband or a wife, and a potential divorce or other circumstances could mean that you want to claw back them share classes. You would also look at resolutions and board minutes to document the whole process and to make sure it's compliant again. And then the actual filing is SH01 and CS01 at Companies House will issue the shares and then allocate them to the new share structure. So this alphabet share structure can be massively beneficial. We're even seeing people put the ABC shares in trust, because for kids under 18, they can't be shareholders on Companies House. Directors or shareholders may want to pass some of the capital or the wealth to children as part of a wider estate planning technique, which can be done in trust, which is always a good way to do it. So if this may apply to you, get in touch. We can look at putting a plan in place to make sure you're maximizing your tax efficiency and also thinking about how the company is going to be passed down through generation to generation.